The first thing I'm going to start with is just going through. This is level 14, and then I have level 15 right here. I am just looking at the directions here. So if you look at number 1, it wants your answer in decimal form. Number 2, though, it wants a fraction. Number 3 asks for a decimal. Number 4 and 5 are multiple choice. But that can be tricky if you don't look at that direction. You could give it in the wrong form, and then you'd be incorrect. This is level 15. They're more word problems, but again, level 1. Number 1, decimal form. Number 2, decimal form. Number 3 is fraction. Number 4 is fraction. Number 5 is multiple choice. So just make sure you're watching out for those keywords so that you know how to give your answer. And then I've got some examples that I made up here on these little sticky notes that should help. They're very similar to the ones in the levels, so you guys will have a good head start here. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do says, I have 10 cups and 3 of them are red. How many are red in decimal form? So I know that I have 10 cups total, which tells me that I need to use tenths as my place value slot. Sometimes it's easier to start with my fraction and then move to a decimal if that's kind of the way your brain thinks. So what I could do is start with, if this will write, there it goes. I could start with 3 tenths, knowing that I have 3 red cups out of the 10 total cups, and then change that into a decimal. But if you wanted to skip this step, you could, because it just wants the decimal. So I'm going to start with the decimal point, and then I'm going to use the 3 and put it in the tenths spot, which is the first one after the decimal. So this tells me I have 3 tenths of red cups. Okay, we're going to erase that one and move on to the second sticky note. Okay, they get a little harder as we go for the most part. This one says, I have 3 tenths of a shake. Mrs. Walton has 6 tenths of a shake. Who has more shake? So this is comparing fractions. I could put them into decimal form, but I don't need to. I have 3 tenths of the shake, and Mrs. Walton has 6 tenths. When the denominators match, they're both tens, I can just look at the numerators, and I can see this was Mrs. Walton, this was Miss Davis. I can see that Mrs. Walton has more shake because she has 6 tens, and I only had 3. So Mrs. Walton had more shake. Okay, moving on to the next one. My dog Goose ate 1 and 3 tenths. That's how we read decimals, 1 and 3 tenths treats. How many treats did he eat in fraction form? So I'm going to start with what I know is the whole number. So on the left side of the decimal. So I know there's 1. So he ate 1 whole treat. After the decimal, I know that anything on the right side is going to need to be turned into a fraction. The digit here after the decimal, that's going to be my numerator. So he ate 3 parts of the treat. And then the place value that the 3 is in tells me what my denominator should be. So this 3 is in the first place value spot, which is the tenths spot. So my denominator has to be a 10. So Goose ate 1 and 3 tenths treats. So this is the fraction form of this decimal. Going from decimal to a fraction can be kind of tricky, which is why I included this one. You have to kind of slow down and think through each piece, knowing that on the left side of the decimal is your whole number, and then your fraction part of the mixed number comes from after the decimal on the right side, and the digit is the numerator, this spot is the denominator, like the location or where it is. Okay. And last, we're going to talk about distance. So I drove 3 4/10 miles to get to the school. How far did I drive in decimal form? This is the opposite of the goose problem. So I'm going to first look at this mixed number. I need to identify the whole, which is 3. So I have 3 wholes. In this case, the wholes are miles, so 3 whole miles. And that's where I drop my decimal point. And then I also have this fraction. The digit or the numerator 4 is the digit I'm going to use in the decimal point. The denominator of 10 tells me where to put the 4. So the 10th spot is the first place value spot. So my 4 needs to go right there. And I'm done. 3 4/10 miles in decimal form.